because we've got people who are doing this press conference live. Can you just be courteous to everybody else and put it on silent, please? Is that okay? Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Premier Soccer League. And thank you for taking your time to come here at a relatively short notice. I will now invite our chairman, Dr. Irvin Khoza, to please address us. We will take whatever questions thereafter. Thank you very much. Chairman, please.
Podium.
Can I just move microphones?
No, that's fine
for you. Okay.
Members of the media, good morning. Firstly, I want to apologize. We received a request from some of the media houses that there is a press conference at the Mandela Foundation starting at 11 o'clock. It was going to impact on us starting at 12 o'clock. And hence we ask for your indulgence that we should start at 12:30. If there's any inconvenience that has been caused, I really apologize. But also very important before I start, I want to deal with one aspect which was confusing, is that of the member of the security that was kicked at the stadium. I've been reading the media, and I've been told that there's a lady that has been kicked, and it happened that the person that was kicked was Mr. Sabela Maziba, whose age is 32, and he had head injuries, but was treated in the hospital and discharged. The only lady that was reported to us was one who was over the drinking limit, and was paralytic. When she was taken to hospital, they refused to accept her in hospital. He was sent to sleep over in the police station, and she was released, yesterday morning. And the name of that person was Toby Lengo. So I thought I must clear that part first before I can speak. But also to indicate that, in terms of the patients that were transported to the hospital, was one Innocent Mkhize, male of 28, with head injuries with deep lacerations to parietal region, and Kumbulani Kwabe, age 40, chest trauma and injury on the right eye, the security officer, and Mr. Sabelo Maziba, which I've already mentioned. Sihle Mabhega, male, 28 years old, with head injuries. Vali Paula Sibaya, male, 22, fracture right hand and side finger. Patients that were treated and discharged at the stadium room is Howard Mutloung, male, 41, deep lacerations to the frontal region. Funom Tetwa, male, 37, head injuries. Dilani Ndlovu, male, 38, head injuries. Bekani Zindela, male, 31, hematoma to frontal and lacerations to the neck. Sibusiso Mazibuko, male, 45 years old, pains to left arm with abrasions. Vogani Butelezi, male, 33, pains to lip, fiber and back pains. Bagabantu Kwele, male, 29, chest trauma. Moses Munguni, male, 36, head injuries. Zondile Zikali, male, 38, facial injuries. Tlelabantu Kwele, male, 43, head injuries. Mandlakai Sekongo, 48, general body pains. Konzeni Bengu, male, 39, open abrasions to the left knee. A non-female around 35, that is a lady I've already mentioned, that was intoxicated. It was Simelani, male, 26, pain to the left arm. Sibongiseni Nzimande, male, 51, deep lacerations at left foot. For the record, at this point, nobody is deceased. The league is shocked, extremely concerned about the acts of serious violence and criminality that occurred after the final whistle at the Nedbank Cup final between Kaizer Chiefs Football Club and Free State Stars Football Club at Moses Mabhida Stadium on Saturday night. Ladies and gentlemen, from the outset, I want to make it loud and clear that there is no place, no justification for violence in football or in our society, no place. The damage that these senseless acts of violence cause take more than a generation to correct. These acts are not coincidental. They are deliberate, premeditated, and orchestrated by people whose aim is criminality and an infringement of the majority who are peace-loving and law-abiding. We have called this media conference to publicly apologize to the nation and bring all the stakeholders up to date on the status of the events following the violence in and around Moses Mabhida Stadium on Saturday. We apologize to Nedbank, the tournament sponsor, and all the sponsors associated with the clubs and the league. We apologize to all those that were injured. We apologize to the broadcasters, SABC and SuperSport, and attack of the media and damage of equipment are unacceptable criminal acts that should never be tolerated. It is therefore important in our addressing of these events of violent incidences that we take into consideration the motive and irreparable harm that these criminals seek to inflict on our football and society. I'm deliberately and consciously going beyond football because there is a tone of intolerance and violence that is on the rise in our country right now. The imagery on television and in newspapers is not good for our nation, both domestically and abroad. The recruitment for participation by society on social media in a manner that seeks to justify violence is dangerous. If we do not stop this rising tide of destruction, it will destroy the fiber of our nation. It is particularly important that the perpetrators of this violence are not seen to be getting away with the criminality they inflict the majority that is peace-loving and law-abiding. Condemnation by words alone is not enough. Action, both preventative and remedial, is crucial. From the PSL side, I would like everybody to know that these incidents are happening at a time when the PSL executive is in discussion with the political parties and the executive branch of government with a particular view to forge an understanding by the law and policymakers in our country of our business, its contribution to the economy and the well-being of our people, and the challenges we face. Key amongst the challenges we face is the security at matches as regulated by the Safety and Sports and Recreational Events Act, the SASRIA of 2010. Let me say right up front that the League takes its general and legislative responsibilities to, among others, ensuring the safety of the law-abiding, validity-holding members of the public, players, officials, match support staff who are present at league-sanctioned football matches very seriously. At this juncture, it will be premature of me to comment in details on the said events of Saturday night, including the reasons for it. From the league's perspective, there will be a thorough and expeditious investigation into the incidents at Moses Mabhida Stadium, including the events leading up to it, in terms of, among others, the league's administrative misconduct and prosecution procedures. That all being said, what the league is prepared to state now is that it has the following is identification of a disturbing recent and increasing trend of serious acts of criminality and public violence by criminal elements at high attendance local professional football matches, particularly involving teams with large supporter bases, recently taken a number of official steps. The first of these steps, as part of the league's commitment to improving public safety at local professional football matches, was to embark on a public safety and security enhancement project. This project is aimed at assisting and further empowering member clubs and the league, particularly those officials responsible for safety and security in a practical manner in connection with their legislative responsibilities to secure the general public who attend their home fixtures at their chosen home venues. To this end, it has recently appointed our country's leading private sector major risk and compliance legislation advisor to professionally assist with its task. From the 16th of May to the 20th, all the clubs in the country, they've been blocked in groups where these things are taking place. And the second step of it is taking some time in June until late, early in July of this year. The more important steps taken by the league, however, having noted the disturbing increasing level of criminality and public violence at certain local professional football matches, was a recent official engagement by the league with our new Honorable Minister of Safety and Security and Sport. The meeting was held on the 29th of March 2018 with the Minister in his capacity, among others, as the custodian of our country's legislation which regulates public safety at events, the Safety of Sports and Recreation Events Act of 2010. It was held here in these offices of the PSL. It was agreed at this meeting that follow-up meetings would be held as part of the commencement of a joint process to address the serious public safety matters that were discussed and raised at that meeting. At that meeting, the league, among others, raised as its very real concern regarding its view that the increasing levels of violence and criminality in our society were manifesting themselves at a certain high attendance professional football matches involving elevated risk levels. The league is also grappling with the issue of culpability of member clubs when such serious criminal incidents occur at PSL sanctioned matches. Is the member club or the league, for that matter, responsible for the criminal acts or acts of public violence or worse on the part of non-compliant spectator just because he or she is wearing the shirt of a club of concern? By far the majority of the tens of millions of football supporters who attend football matches are peaceful, law-abiding and fun-loving citizens. It is the league's view that the criminal element which hide among these supporters, a relatively small number, must be identified, arrested and prosecuted to the full extent of the law by the authorities. Spectator exclusion notices must be issued by the police in terms of the SASRIA Act. If we want to really deal with this problem, a strong message must be sent out that such criminal behavior which puts the lives and property of law-abiding members of the public at risk, the authorities have the leagues and its member clubs' utmost commitment to assist where possible. The authorities, with the identification of this criminal element which is besmirching our country's name and bringing the beautiful game of football into disrepute. It cannot be allowed to continue. It is a fact that public safety risk at local professional football matches, events around the country, has been escalating, and it was incumbent on the PSL in its capacity as both controlling body and occasionally event organizer, league-sponsored knockout tournaments such as the Nedbank Cup, to bring to the attention of the honorable ministers having involving aspects of the administration of the Act by the SABC, which in its considered opinion are impacting negatively on the compliance with SASRIA. In particular, the league also raised certain faults regarding the consistent practical implementation of SASRIA by certain components of the SABC, and I do not generalize here, as I recognize that there are pockets of excellence within the state security, major event security environment, and local professional football matches. Among others, the following matters which may have relevance regarding the shocking and disturbing events on Saturday were raised by the league with the minister. 1, failure by the authorized member and invoke commander or SABC to deploy adequate policing, deployment of state security service officials, commensurate with the match risk faced. It is regulated events as contemplated by Section 24 of SASRIA. Lack of budget, resources, and payments of overtime are often given as reasons why SABC officials and travel schemes are not available. 2, in this regard, it must be noted that the SABC has a legislated responsibility in terms of both Section 205 of our Constitution and SASRIA to provide adequate policing for medium and high-risk football matches in the form having regard to the sub-categorized risk for that match, of necessary security measures and deployments. This is why SABC officials chair Event Safety and Security Planning Committee, avoid commanders, and in terms of SASRIA, retain ultimate authority and to direct measures relating to safety and security at professional matches. As we know, Section 205 of our Constitution places a responsibility on SABS to, among others, prevent, combat, and investigate crime, to maintain public order, to protect the general public and their property, and to uphold and enforce the law. 4, insufficient number and strategic deployments, positioning of experienced SABS public order unit members at matches where a known escalation of safety and security risk has occurred in the lead up to match, such as the match on Saturday night. 5, in the event that the SABS, through its authorized member, has reasons to believe that they cannot provide adequate policing for a medium or high risk categorized football match, such as where multiple events are being hosted in the same jurisdiction, they are obliged to immediately advise the league and the member clubs involved with a view, among others, discussing the possibility of postponing the match until such match there is a position to do so. We remember Saturday there was a big event next to us. It was a rugby match the Stormers were playing, and there was another one at the Grand White Parade that was also taking place, which I don't know how it impacted. That's why we're waiting on the report on that one. Event and safety security planning committees are often left hanging in the air till the last moment as far as the confirmation by a SABS authorized member or VOC commander regarding the number of SABS officials that will be deployed to provide adequate policing at matches. Unfortunately, this often occurs at capacity, potentially challenging professional football matches such as the one held at Moses Mabhida on Saturday. Reluctance by SABS to amend event risk categorization for large capacity league and member club matches from medium risk to high risk when pre-event risk circumstances have changed. High risk categorized matches require, among others, much higher levels of state security involvement. 8, a reluctance on the part of the authorized member, VOC commanders, and sub-officials deployed on the ground at football matches to enforce the criminal provisions of the Act. In the criminal law in general, pitch invasions, public violence, malicious damage to property, sale of counterfeit and complimentary tickets at stadiums, venue, failure to abide by directives of the ESSPC and VOC officials, attempt to open or force emergency gates, sale of counterfeit merchandise, ambush marketing, high levels of public intoxication, violence between spectators, throwing of missiles, etc. 9, a reluctance on the part of authorized member and or VOC commanders to call for and issue prohibition notices, Section 21 of the Act, and exclusion notices, Section 22 of the Act. To the league's knowledge, there has not been an issue of one of these notices in respect of problematic spectators or groups of spectators on the existence of unsafe public safety conditions at the stadium or venue since the inception of the Act 8 years ago. In many cases, authorized members and VOC commanders are not ensuring that proper event-specific ESP plan, event safety plans and VOC plans commensurate with the event risk categorization for a match are being timelessly prepared and circulated by key ESP role players, including the SABS, as required by SASRIA. Such planning and the required ESP meetings are often left to a very late stage. In many cases, authorized member and VOC commanders are not ensuring that proper timers, event-specific pre-event risk assessments are being prepared as part of the planning of the event and safety and security plans in respect of regulated medium risk categorized events. These assessments are often left to the eve of the match. An increasing and incorrect expectation on the part of SABS, authorized member and VOC commanders that the private security and safety stewards, which the league and member clubs are required by law to deploy professional football matches, must carry out the constitutional and statutory responsibilities of the SABS. From the league's perspective, once crime or acts of unlawful public violence are being committed in their presence, the SABS are required to be properly prepared for and for immediately to act. It must be remembered that private security officers are not peace officers. They do not have the powers of arrest. They are not specifically trained to maintain public order and to counter public violence as such public order policing units are. The league looks forward to its further engagement with our government in order to jointly collaborate to find solutions and bring an end to this unfortunate recent trend of escalating criminality and violence at local football matches. We are the biggest event organizers in the country. The attractiveness of our events is dependent on the safety of our supporters and fans, the sponsors and broadcasters who make football accessible and affordable for its followers will stop the association and participation in football when it starts to tarnish their brands. We, the leadership in football, treat every incident seriously because of our recognition of the consequences. Then I leave this to the media if there's any clarifications that you require I'm prepared to answer every question.
Okay, there is a microphone somewhere there. When Nasif is, so please identify yourself. Just raise your hand, and then we'll take questions, please. You just put a little bit on my microphone. Okay, who's going to go first? Just identify yourself and your name. I'll start with the gentleman there on Vision View. There we go.
Good afternoon, Dr. Irvin Khoza from Vision View. Just a quick question.
From?
Vision View Sports Radio.
Vision?
View.
Vision View.
Oh, Vision View.
The DA has come out saying that they will be inviting you to the Parliament rather, that is to answer as to what happened over the course of the weekend. Has there been an invitation as to what has happened? And secondly, why does it take the PSL a bit of a long time to report back as to all the disciplinary actions against clubs that has contravened the rules of the PSL?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, as I indicated in my address, that we took it upon ourselves to go all over the country to meet all political parties, to brief them about the issues I've raised. And unfortunately for the DA, they were supposed to be the last to meet us last week Friday. Unfortunately, the chairperson of the DA, Mr. Moses Mabhida, cancelled that meeting. If ever he was part of that meeting, he could have appreciated our briefing, which other parties, I think as we speak now, they appreciate our briefing on what has taken place, what are the challenges that we are facing, in particular with the Sasria Act. Now, coming to your question, one of the delays, that created problem was the interpretation of the rules. Now, in terms of the Sasria Act, if the event has been categorized as medium risk or high risk, then the national commissioner, or sometimes with the delegated authority, the provincial office, they appoint what is called an authorized member. The authorized member is the person who's a level of captain or above, who's been given a responsibility to call events, safety and security planning committee meeting to discuss the plan for the meeting. Now, after that plan, then that plan is going to now be implemented on the day of the game, which gives rise to what is called the VOC. The VOC is all the stakeholders that participate, in the making sure that the event takes place, the disaster management, the traffic, the event organizers, the sponsor, everybody becomes part of the VOC. So now what has happened is that, when there are issues of this nature like Saturday, where the game was a medium risk, understand the authority lies with the VOC commander. The VOC commander is the only person who can instruct deployment when the incident of that nature happens. Now, that VOC commander, obviously, if he is not instructed, nobody can move there to give, intervention. Now, when you come to the PSL, the club is charged for whatever offense. Then when you look for reports, there's one report that is always missing. It's a report of the VOC commander or of the police, who are responsible for the command and control of the event. Now, understand in football terms, is the match commissioner that is responsible for this, but insofar as the event itself is concerned, the VOC commander is in charge insofar as giving directive. Now, when you go to the DC, now the interpretation comes up because now there are lawyers that are involved to say where is the capability lies. Now, if it is an away team, for instance, which was not part of the planning of the event, you cannot ascertain whether the security was enough or not enough, but they are being charged, or what base are being charged. Now, is the law that is in terms of the lawyer's understanding of the law. Now, in this instance, you've got the VOC commander's report, which is not in that meeting. So there's a debate, it takes time. And that time, there are postponements that takes place, to ascertain up till now. It's an open question, which is the question we've raised with all the political parties. In fact, one of the things that came out very interesting is that, this act it's got a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges is this. According to the act, before every event takes place, you must 6 months in advance submit the schedule of that event. Now we are saying to the political parties and to the minister himself, if the game, league ends, on the May or in June, to start in August, already we are in breach of the act, because we can't submit the event 6 months in advance. Therefore, we're in breach of the protocol. So what must we do? Now, what was fortunate for us, that the minister says to us, man, fortunate I was the commissioner. I think this act was done in terms of the major events like the World Cup. So raw as it is, it was transported into so far as to regulate events in the country. And hence the question that you are raising creates problems. And that is why now the issues that needs to be addressed again, to see how are they impacting on us. So insofar as all these issues, now they raise the question insofar as if we have a VOC commander, we have a mesh commissioner, which report takes precedent. But in terms of the rules of the PSL is the mesh commissioner. Now if you plead mitigation, you plead what called defense on the basis of what you saw, what is happening is a problem. I'll give one instance of Saturday's game, which I did not cover purposely in my report. The Act says that the commissioner must appoint an event authorized member. What happened in this instance, the authorized member that was appointed did not come on the first meeting on the 17th, where the planning must take place. He only came on the implementation day on the 21st, when the game was taking place. There's a problem already. You can't implement what you didn't plan for. Now you can imagine if it goes to the DC, that instance, it's a discussion for another 6 months. To say, why did you allow that thing to happen? But sponsors, they've got the obligation to the sponsor, to the broadcast, to everybody, the game must go on. Now if an event of this nature happens, now that's why I do not go to the details of this, because these are things we're going to raise again with the minister, that as we brief you on the 29th of March, it has happened again. That the authorized member, who's got the full authority, and is a captain, he is the one that was supposed to be in charge. Now is a lieutenant colonel this time, but the minister said sometimes if we say the captain is scared to take decisions because of the power attached to his position, so you need somebody a bit higher, which we're appreciative of the lieutenant colonel which was appointed. So, but in this instance, the authorized member who was now appointed was not there on the first day of the planning. Now, on the day of the game, he was the actual member who was responsible for the event. Now he's going to implement a plan that was not part of. In fact, it was a pre-event assessment of the risk of the cheaper game against Chiefs, of other developments that were happening in the social media, which were reported in the planning meeting, which he promised we're going to be having extra security coming up. Now the rest I don't want to talk about because we're still waiting for a final report. Now we can see the challenge where it is. When you go to DC, it takes this time to argue the point until we get to the merits and the sanctions that is required in terms of the Act. So there are different issues that are challenging. Hence, we have to take upon ourselves as a league to engage the politicians to make them aware. If we don't do that, obviously there's a narrative that goes with its own kind of interpretation. And also to go to the Minister of Sport, who was also part of that meeting. He came after the Minister of Safety and Security. We briefed her also to say what are the issues that are affecting us. In fact, we went in so far also to discuss the issue of the commission, that we were prepared to deal with the issues of the commission. But when the department decided to come up with a committee of inquiry, there were other people that challenged the standing of the committee, not because they are against it, because the police have issued an inquest proceedings. Now, you cannot submit a report this side when you're going to submit a report on the inquest, which got criminal consequences, and, which are dire to you as a person presenting. And we said it's better that the inquest go ahead, and once we're waiting, to come back to this one if there's a need be arising of what comes out of the inquest. As I speak to now, we don't know what has happened to the inquest. We're still waiting. We are told that they are finalizing the details on the inquest, but nothing has happened. Now you can imagine now, there's a matter that has happened at the issues of the match that you're talking about, but now because of the inquest, we can't use this information. Because it's going to work against you, because now you don't have the police report, you've got other reports, therefore you must hold on your report. So the challenges that are facing us, that are challenging us all the time, which now, fortunately, because of the minister that we have was responsive, we are more than comfortable because he gave us such assurance and comfort the way he dealt with the matters. That's why I'm saying some of the issues that came up on Saturday are going to be very dealt with heavily in that meeting, because exactly what we raised before exactly happened again on Saturday, which I cannot discuss now because obviously we're giving other people a chance to submit their reports and make sure that we don't become biased on this matter. so to give everybody a chance who was participating.
And Tsepo? There's Tsepo. You can stand so that we can see you, if you don't mind.
Hi, Chairman.
NCA.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry this morning.
Okay, Chairman, I don't know. I'm not sure if you will be able to shed some light into the kind of punishment, especially looking at Kaizer Chiefs, looking at the fact that they are already on a suspended sentence, and then in terms of the finance. Now, within a couple of weeks, this happens. I don't know if you can clarify that in terms of...
When they see I'm the chairman of the league, what you see happen in government or the different arms of government is same here. The independence of the judiciary is sacrosanct in the PSL. So I cannot discuss the matter. That's why we never discuss issues of the DC in the executive committee meetings. We don't even know what happened. This is a matter of the prosecutor. We only get the report, like everybody to say this is what happened about the outcome of the what call of the matter. We can't discuss those issues. We can't even evaluate, the merits as we stand. That's why when we discuss, we are getting reports. I say that the prosecution, if there's need be, is going to be dealt with by the prosecution, not by the executive committee, not by anybody. So therefore, I can't comment on that one. Even if I can comment, it will be presumptuous of me to do that.
All right, I'll take the next question. Mini, then Temba. I've noted you at the back, Masubudi.
Chairman, Mina Ntlahlela from ANN7. Chairman, you've mentioned about how the SAP are supposed to be take care of the situation should it happen like this. Just on the private security that we constantly see at the games, don't you think that maybe it's time that the PSL and the clubs or the people in charge of hosting these events should then, I don't know, possibly review what policies that are there? Because it looks like the policies that are there don't seem to be working. I think this is a third event of invasion or of something of this nature that's happening within the last 12 months. So should the league, the clubs themselves and the organizers maybe come up with better policies or improve on the policies that they currently have?
I think I indicated, in my briefing note that I think it will be helpful. I think it's going to be, as we move forward, be the same page with the police. Because the most important thing, in all the matches of medium risk and high risk, the VOC is the most important division in the game, or the VOC commander. Because the VOC commander is the one who gives directives, what must happen. And that's why it becomes difficult, to talk about this issue, because that issue of Saturday is not an issue of the security. It's the issue of public policy, public order policy. Because as an ordinary safety officer, you don't even have, I don't want to use the name, because it's got the connotations. And let's make for emphasis, the donkey pin. What do you call it in English? That's what you call it. What do you call it? What is it? They're not baiting something else. It's a wooden one. There's one is, the shambok is a long thin one. Yeah?
They get it.
No, immediately English people, you must tell us. I don't use the wrong language. But people understand what I'm talking about, with the security that they carry, So we don't even have to do that. You can see in all the events internationally, nobody carries that. Before you used to do that. And that is why, this line of defense, line of deployment, they've got certain responsibilities. Hence, the issue of public order policing is very important. Because we are expecting people coming to the matches are peace-loving people. Maybe your question could be that, are they searching people sufficiently or not? What is the police around that part, if ever the problem starts there? But usually people, they come sometimes intoxicated, they don't drink in the stadium, they come already drunk, some of them. Some of them come pre-planned. I'll tell you an incident, for instance. Somebody was explaining to me in the DC case of Kaizer Chiefs, where there was a cat meat which was thrown in the stadium. Now, how do people come with a cat meat? What is the significance of that? Now, you can think it's a scope or is a food to eat. Meantime, it's a missile. 15 pieces of meat, in the pitch. How do you explain that? So who's responsible for that? So again, as a security officer in charge of searching, you can say, oh no, this is my food. And you think it's food. Or this is my sushi. because it's raw. So meantime, it's a missile, it's only afterwards. So I'm saying that, at the moment we are dealing with this matter, and I'm happy with the cooperation from the minister. And here we're not approaching blame to the police. We're trying to find solutions where we identify the gaps, which gaps created this kind of problems. Because it's very important that we find a common understanding, but more importantly, what we have discovered that as much as this act was enacted, there were no regulations that governs it, which is the most problematic problem of this act. So it's the issue that the minister has welcomed, and hence he has arranged that we have these task teams, and to be able to get this thing fast. If it needs be, it must go back to Parliament for amendment, if possible. If else the stakeholders agree, instead of finger pointing or whatever, let's find solutions if our observations are correct. So, and that's why we put on the table with the minister, which most of them have concurred with us, insofar as what we've raised. So that, when we find a solution, it's in our interest, because we need the police. Without them, we can't just operate. We must also assist them, because I know they're overstretched sometimes, and they're overworked sometimes, and that's why we don't want to be happy. It's a problem of the law, because when there's a commission of inquiry, there's no sentiment. Did you comply or did not comply? What the act says. Now you get all the senior counsels there, and they dramatize us there. By the time you understand everything, you're dead. You appear stupid. So we've got to make sure that we clarify those areas that we're not sure of, which we have done as a league, long in advance. So as much as the people that we are reacting, we're not reacting, we're responsive. When we are quiet, we never told anybody that we're engaging the ministers, we're engaging the politicians, we're in charge of the act, which to them was also a revelation. We're not aware of some of the things that we've raised, and they've encouraged this channel of discussion, of sharing of information between us and them.
Temba?
Temba Shabalala, Joseph from Sports. Just a quick one. Chairman, recently in the country we saw the successful prosecution and sentencing of Vicky Mombek for going against the country's constitution using the K word. But in the football fraternity, we've seen fans doing as they please. Are we seeing the PSL going to the side where they criminalize pitch invasion, spectator misbehavior, damage to property, as we've seen within the football fraternity, where equipment was damaged, even on the Kaizer Chiefs match as well, the Pirates one previously, Sundowns. Are we seeing the league saying now it is going to be a criminal offense, that people will be jailed and serve sentences for contravening that particular act?
Mr. Shabalala, the act is there, it needs to be implemented. Who must implement? We've raised it with the minister. The act is there. All these things should not happen because it's there in the act. Who must do what? The exclusions that are there, that must be acted upon. They are there. So who must do that? So that's why I'm saying that these issues we've raised should not have all these things. Hence the categorization of matches, the deployment that is supposed to take place, is it sufficient or what? All these things are going to be examined, especially in the game of Saturday against Free State Stars and Kaizer Chiefs. Just to go back with the minister to say, we've raised these things, let's go and check the numbers. If the numbers fit the level of the risk, and also the pre-assessment and the post-assessment of the risk that has been identified. What did we do? So then we look at a solution going forward. But again, why the exclusions are not being acted upon? Because all the things that we are raising are in the act. Who must do what? Yeah, there. We don't have to reinvent anything. So that's where the challenges that we have as the PSL.
Musubudi, I'm going to wrap up with a few questions. Musubudi, probably just 3 questions and then we'll wrap it up.
Musibudi White at Kaya FM. Chairman, just to build on the question about the private security personnel, you've highlighted some of the shortcomings of the South African Police Service, and I think we all understand how overstretched they are. You mentioned that there will be workshops with the clubs in May, June, and July. As part of those workshops, are there any discussions to empower the private security personnel, both from a skills perspective and also an authority perspective, to be more, shall I say, decisive in game situations, as you mentioned, intoxication, carrying weapons, and all of this, and also maybe patrolling during the stadium during the match before things explode? Will that be part of the discussion? And number 2, perhaps a message for members of the football-loving public at home, some of whom are now afraid to go to the stadium with young children. Maybe a message to them about what the PSL is doing. Thank you.
Well, I think, that issue you're raising, again, it goes back to what we have said. Because, there's a number of authority level that, are responsible in the match. As I said, even when there was a preponderance of people going to the stadium with liquor, with guns, it means the searching is a problem. But at the moment, what we see is a problem inside the stadium. But another problem is that those gangs that are now becoming a common threat, which wait the game, in big games, to wait at a certain time and rush, to barricade, the gates to go in without tickets. And those gangs that, are on the social media communicating what you're going to go do next. In fact, this game, there was a lot of communication in the social media that, you in Johannesburg, you don't know what you're doing, we're going to fix when you come to Durban. So it was there in the social media. So you can be able to plan about that. Now, the issue of the security people, if there's a deficiency, obviously, this workshop is going to deal with all issues, aspects of security, to assist the clubs, especially on low-risk games, because even low-risk games are the responsibility of the clubs themselves. Police are not involved in those low-risk games. So it's very important, because anything happening there, one supporter can cause problems, can step a referee, can step a player, cannot do whatever. It's very important what kind of personnel. And in fact, the Sasria Act is also very important, that, what kind of security you must employ, what category you must employ, what qualification and training that you must employ. All those matters are part of the compliance manual of the PSL, which requires a certain level of qualification. So for us, we are going through all that gambit to make sure that everybody is ready. In fact, what was also apparent was that we also must assist clubs about how to do your pre-match report, planning, post-match report, so that it's in line with the Act, because the Act requires so many things. That Act is so demanding, and that's why we said the clubs that it's important for them to appoint or hire risk managers with proper qualifications. Not because the guy was a policeman, therefore you think he's going to be a head of security. It is far from it. It's somebody who understands issues about risk, about safety and security, and understand the Act itself. Because when it comes to expect witness in court, it's going to be a problem if that guy is not properly trained. Therefore, if in the security officers that we have former players, former supporters that are in pension, with them as security officers, but they're not properly trained, it's a problem. So that audit has been done. That report, when you come back and before the start of the season, we have all a full report from the person appointed to do that, training to the clubs.
I'll take the last two questions and then we'll wrap it up. Sorry, Chairman, the message, the last part, which was a message to the supporters.
Well, I think I did mention the first message on that, we condemn what has happened. And we understand that it's not all the supporters. If you can see even the Moses Mabhida, on the side of the presidential suite, those supporters were not that much active. There was a few of them were active. It was on the northern side that were more active in terms of invading the pitch. So it's not everybody is involved in this escapade that causes such problems for us. But we are saying we are doing everything in our power together with the police, because without the police we cannot solve this problem. And it's important for the first time that people must take responsibility, because you cannot say the club is going to pay. You must pay. Because, no club is going there to go and lose, want to go and lose. Everyone wants to win. And I know that all of us, we've got emotional attachment to our clubs. We'd have to our clubs to win. We want to win the finals, want to do whatever. We've got the breaking rights, we write on social media. But again, football has got its own surprises. And that is why sometimes it's very important to manage, your expectations. But again, it's important to be very accommodative. Hence, we are saying to the supporters, as much as we understand your frustrations, but that's not our way of doing it, because that's what society is doing now. That when violence pays, if you get violence, you're going to get your result. It can't be. It can't be a country that use violence as a means to achieve what you want to achieve. It can't be. So I say to the supporters, please don't use violence as a means to achieve whatever. We've got platforms where you can achieve things in your clubs, and your clubs are doing everything in their power to make sure that they make you happy, at the cost of their health and their finances sometimes. So we are saying to the supporters, we hope that, when they come back after meeting with the minister, we'll improve the situation the best we can.
The gentleman next to Masubudi, and then will have the last question. Yes? You can go ahead, man.
Thanks, Chairman. Pila Sande from EWN Sport. Chairman, you mentioned a few injuries to a number of people from the game. Are there any medical bills that have been incurred by those people? And if there are, is the PSL going to compensate those medical bills?
Well, I think most of them are being discharged, but let me say this. One of our main sponsors is going to issue a statement this afternoon where they are saying that they are going to be available to incur the expenses if there are any expenses of any serious injury. I want to steal their thunder because it's going to issue a statement this afternoon, one of our sponsors, big sponsors, to deal with this issue that you are raising at the present moment. But fortunately, in terms of what we have as a report now, that all the people that were injured were discharged, but sometimes the discharge might mean expediency, maybe there are consequences, after 2 days, 3 days, you go back for a scan, they say there's something wrong with your brain, we don't know. But that sponsor has made an indication that they are prepared to incur the expenses, but they don't want to see this thing happening in our society. So I will wait for that report to come up in the afternoon, but I must not steal the thunder.
Okay, Musia, then check Tegule, the last one. What's the next one? Musia?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Tamiso Musia from SAFM.
I don't see you, where are you?
I'm here, Chairman.
Oh.
You can stand, Thomas.
Yes, Chairman, I think you've been very clear. You've expressed your disappointment with the people that didn't come to the party as far as their roles are concerned. But I just want to get it from you. With the events of the last couple of months, Loftus, FNB, is there a pattern here with security and the people in charge that they're not doing what they're supposed to do? Are you picking up a pattern from your early investigations? I know some others are still going on. And just secondly, Chairman, there are matches tomorrow, Chiefs in Devon again against Golden Arrows. Does that match go ahead? Is it business as usual?
The game is going ahead tomorrow. The television is going to be there tomorrow. The pattern is yes. And that's why we're saying that this game. But again, why don't we implement the law? The law is clear that if the criminal act happens, arrest. But more importantly, if the VOC, at the start of the shake of the fence, people are deployed, we wouldn't have these problems. Let's see when it happens, the deployment, then after we can come and talk about what else must we do next. We've not even done that. We've never ever seen any deployment of public order policing to that situation before it happens. It never happened. So until it happens, and it's in the act, that they are the only people who are trained on public order policing. Securities are not trained on that public order policing, and that's why it's not easy for them to intervene. But in the VOC command, there's the boss who can only deploy in that situation. So I'm saying, let's exploit all that is available in the law, in the act, and see if it doesn't work, what we do next. We have not even started implementing what is in the act. So let's do that first and see what it does for us. If it does not work, let's try something else new.
Okay, Shed, you are on additional time, so you're going to keep one question.
Mr. Chairman, apologies, I would stand.
No, but I can see you.
Just on the issue of DRC and the DC, a lot of backlash has been going around on the decisions that have been made lately. Obviously, the most notable one is the Pilots fans case, which took 14 months, and then obviously the PSL challenging the DRC decision on the Ndoro case. I understand that the president of the league, of SAFA, and the chairman of the league obviously appoints the members of that DC, and then the DRC is an independent judicial thing. But how do you ensure the trustworthiness of those specific tribunals to ensure that they do give the correct decisions in line with what the NSL handbook says, and we avoid cases where people are obviously giving criticism over the time periods of which rulings are handed out and incorrect rulings are given, which the PSL need to challenge?
I think the one good thing with football, you've got the DC, you've got the appeal, you've got arbitration, you've got FIFA, you've got CAS to test. So everybody's got a free access, to test the outcome of any decision. So whatever you can doubt or you can perceive or you can think that somebody's tampered with what, the test is there for the matters. If you can check in terms of the turnover of cases, few of them have succeeded on appeal, on arbitration. Now we've just published a book on all the decided cases of the PSL, which is got its own jurisprudence. It's a marvelous thing to have. We're going to distribute in the media and see all those cases, how many were challenged, how many were not challenged. In all these years we've been there. So what we do things to the best of our ability, and also we are members of 15 years or more experience to participate in the DC. We're not there to do it, anybody a favor. The rules are the one that must be tested. And the rules are in line with the FIFA rules. So whatever happens, if you're not happy in a Greek party, you go to appeal. And from appeal, you go to arbitration, which is independent. Senior counsels are involved there. If you're not happy, you go to case. So whatever you say, it cannot be held, against anybody, because whoever is not happy, you must take the matter up, to the highest authority. Hence, the investors, they take so long sometimes, because they challenge issues. And they don't leave them just, for what the TC has said. For instance, like the TRC, it was challenged. So it was the nature of the game. So you must challenge what you're not happy about. The process are there. If there are no process, I would understand, but all processes are open to anybody who was not satisfied with the decision.
All right, members of the media, that concludes this press conference. I see no more hands. So thank you very much for attending this press conference, and good afternoon. Please have something to eat outside. We thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
From inside. Well, thank you very much. There seems to be a rep from inside. That was, of course, the chairman of the Premier Soccer League, Dr. Irvin Khoza, just giving us a quick rundown. As you heard, it seems that the South African police services, well, I don't know whether I can use the word throwing them under the bus a little bit, but it does seem that they came slightly short in making sure that, provisions for making, everyone safe, basically, were taken care of. You heard Dr. Khoza speaking about the fact that, there were meetings held earlier in the week to make sure that, the planning ahead for this match goes up, what can I say, fairly well, but it seems like SABC do not come to the punch. But to quickly wrap it up, I'm going to speak to SABC News senior reporter Sfiso Ramirez. Sfiso, let's step in a little bit, just turn around a little bit for me. Look, we heard Dr. Irvin Khoza there wrap it up for us, but it seems that SABC and the security structures or cluster are partially to blame for this.
Yeah, well, like it's been explained, you've got the Sasria Act. It depends on the magnitude of the game. If it's a medium risk game or a high risk game, then SAPS, public order policing, they are responsible for implementing the security plan, only in low risk matches. But this was based on what happened in the match against Chipa and Kaizer Chiefs at FNB Stadium. Yeah. So one can simply suggest that it was like a high risk or medium risk type of a match. Yeah. So the SAPS, I think, they were supposed to be responsible. Yeah. Well, obviously in conjunction with PSL security, to make sure that everyone is safe at the stadium.
Let me quickly bring just one more question. There's still obviously no blame yet. There's still going to be a DC that's going to be held by the Premier Soccer League with regards to what happened at the Kaizer Chiefs Free State game. The question though is, as a lot of South Africans want to know, is it safe for them to go to these soccer stadiums? Because over the past 3-4 months, this has been reoccurring. Chiefs second time round, Orlando Pirates just recently also got, a ban of playing a match behind bars, or closed doors, so to speak. Should we expect the PSL to come down harsh on Kaizer Chiefs, knowing now that it's not the first time that their team has been involved in the past, 2 months?
Well, remember, Chiefs, they were fined 250,000 rand. The 50,000 was payable immediately, and the other 200,000 was suspended for 24 months, provided the club does not get involved in the same acts like we saw on Saturday. So that automatically invokes the suspended sentence. So Kaizer Chiefs will pay 250,000 immediately. They will have to pay also for the sitting of the disciplinary committee. But another point that was raised here, Chiefs, in most cases, PSL matches, it's the home side that is responsible for the security. So Moses Mabhida, it's Kaizer Chiefs, alternative home ground. So they are the home team. They are responsible for the security. So it means the club will be held accountable for the security arrangement on the day.
Yes, Mr. Rahman, unfortunately, that's going to cut it. But a lot is still going to be said going into the weeks after this. Obviously, still waiting for that disciplinary hearing to begin. And as far as the Premier Soccer League is concerned, and the chairman, Dr. Irvin Khoza, as you heard, they're not taking it lightly, saying that they need to do something right. And as far as player education, fans education. I know it's something we speak about a lot, asking fans to get to the stadiums early. But for now, we're going to take a quick break right here on SABC News channel, then hand back matches to you, studio. After the break, you come back, you get more business news. Do stay with us on Africa's News Leader.